But we do start with a look at where the presidential race is headed in 2016. The Republicans, they had their last debate of the year this week. So let's bring in Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press to talk about it. Hey, guys, how are you?
Good.
We're getting close to the holidays, and the Republicans had their final debate of the year. Nolan, I'm going to start with you. What was your reaction about this one?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that these debates aren't going to change the landscape much. You keep waiting for somebody to break out and make a real challenge to Donald Trump, and it doesn't seem to happen. I think nothing he says or does on the debate stage hurts him. Nothing anybody else says or does hurts him. So I don't think these debates are going to be what shapes this race, and I'm starting to wonder what will change the dynamic, because it's been pretty static throughout the fall.
And did you think that we would still be talking about Donald Trump as the front runner at this point in time of the race?
No, I don't think anybody did. I think if you were talking about in the fall, everyone was saying, well, this is a small group of people who are super engaged now, and once more people start paying attention to the race, candidates like this can't really survive up top. But here we are, just a few weeks from the first balloting in Iowa and New Hampshire, and there he is. He's still on the top. He's not on the top in Iowa anymore, though. The latest poll shows him
Ted
slipping.
Cruz
Ted
is
Cruz
on the top.
took over the top spot there. Maybe that's a sign of a shift. Who knows? It's going to be a really interesting winner.
Yeah, but you look at every other poll, I mean, outside of Iowa, he's at 40% or 38% of the field, Nolan. And one thing that struck me as I was watching the debate, I do think that you were able to hear a lot from the candidates about when they were talking a lot about national security. So there were a lot of points in the debate where they weren't flipping back and forth to Trump's reaction. I mean, there were points, there was like 20 minutes went by where you didn't hear from Donald Trump, and I thought that was refreshing in that regard.
No, I mean, I think the debates have been good for the Republican Party, and the attention that Trump has brought to these debates. You would not get these ratings if he weren't on the stage. I think there's been a lot of good discussion, a lot of issues, and a lot of contrasting to the candidates. I just haven't seen it matter much if you believe the polls. Right now, I mean, you saw a flavor the other night that you have Cruz and Rubio fighting to be the anti-Trump. The guys who are going to inherit his votes if his supporters ever start drifting away. But he just keeps getting stronger. The more negative publicity he gets, the better he does in the polls. After the whole barring Muslim immigrants flare up, his numbers went up 3-4 points. So I don't know what it's going to take.
So, Stephen, I guess what we're looking at now, that the two main issues that are going to be in this election now, do you believe immigration, national security?
Probably. I mean, at least now. I mean, that's the thing. It's still early in the cycle, and so lots of things could happen that would displace those issues at the top of people's attention. National security, I think, probably not, given that the situation in the Middle East is what it is, and is going to continue to present events that draw people's eye to them. The immigration thing, I'm not sure, but they're linked. I mean, Donald Trump has done a wonderful job, in fact, of linking the immigration issue to national security, and that's actually dangerous for Republicans, because they lead in the polls when you ask about national security. They drop in the polls when you ask about immigration, and so the mix of those two could be real electoral dynamite next year.
The only issue that has mattered so far in this campaign is the discontent of voters. You have a highly dissatisfied electorate on a number of issues. Craig McNeely, the Republican strategist from the West Side, gave me a great analogy the other day. It's like you got a stadium full of people, every seat occupied by somebody who's angry about something different. I mean, people are angry across the board, and that frustration, the feeling that Washington hasn't met their needs, Washington hasn't listened to them. You see it on the Republican side, you see it on the Democratic side. Nobody seems to be watching the fact that Bernie Sanders is inching back pretty much neck and neck with Hillary Clinton in Iowa. How big a blow to her would that be if he wins Iowa in terms of symbolism? I mean, you have a discontented electorate, and that makes this an extraordinarily unpredictable election.
Do you believe that Donald Trump now could be the nominee? Is it the fact that the media keeps saying, well, he's going to flame out, he's going to flame out? Is there some understanding the media has to say, okay,
I still maintain that Donald Trump doesn't want to be the nominee because I don't think he really wants to be president. But I mean, I still think that there is something of a put on going on here and a branding exercise on his part for Donald Trump. You know, how much are his businesses benefiting from all of this attention? But I do fear that the electorate, if not Trump, could go for somebody like that, a Ben Carson, even a Ted Cruz, who is not that different from Trump, really, when you listen to what he's saying. You know, I think Nolan's right. People are discontent.